Welcome to Modern Musings, conversations with the maiden, mother, and crone, where we look at ourselves and the world through the lens of the 21st century. Hi, and welcome back to Modern Musings. I'm your hostess, Cindy Murray, and I'm here with my co-hosts, Kristen Hessler and Amber Jones.
Hey.
Hey.
Wow, that was like an aggressive hey there. She's excited about this topic, I think. We are talking about the Beatles. So, yesterday, it was Global Beatles Day. Sorry, could not resist.
And we really hope that you will stay
To listen to our musical episode.
No, we're not going to sing. Sorry. Help. No.
Wow. Okay. Bye.
So,
I'm going to go
yesterday,
get in my yellow submarine and leave.
Right.
Yesterday was Global Beatles Day, and I love the Beatles. I know a lot of you love the Beatles too, so we thought we'd do an episode about the Beatles. I have no idea what we're going to talk about. We started talking about the Beatles, and we all just started singing different songs. So,
right.
And when I realized that it was yesterday, there we go.
Well,
yesterday.
Last week we talked about musicals.
Musicals, so,
So we can talk about
yes. So, I don't, like I said, I have no idea where we're going with this. I love the Beatles. I grew up listening to the Beatles. We had a bootleg 8-track that my mom bought at the flea market that had like the Beatles' greatest hits on it when I was like third grade or so. And I remember just listening to that over and over and over and singing Hey Jude in the shower. And wow. Yeah. I grew up with the Beatles, and my sister was a huge Beatles fan. She often said before she died that the worst day of her life was the day that John Lennon was shot, and she found out she had diabetes on the same day. So, yeah, get off that depressing note. I just thought, it's like I say, it's the Beatles were part of my life. I had lots and lots of their albums, and I think they were a fabulous songwriting. The change that they made in American music, they were the start of the British invasion. Everything changed after the Beatles. And I have no idea what I'm talking about because I don't know what we're talking about. We're just talking about the Beatles. So it was Global Beatles Day. I love the Beatles. I love all things the Beatles. Here, we'll go back. The most recent song that came out, which was a song that apparently they had been working on, the last one that John Lennon sang while still part of the Beatles. And what was it?
Now and
Then.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't listened to that song, it is beautiful. For whatever reason, it was recorded in some kind of format that was not convertible or whatever. At the time.
Yeah, I think they were trying to clean up the audio.
Yeah, well, it wasn't complete. It was like a scratch vocal or whatever. And they just didn't have the technology to make it nice back in the day. And now the technology, maybe with AI assistance, I'm not sure, but they were able to do it, and it really, really is a great and beautiful song. Mm-hmm. And if you haven't listened to it, go listen to that.
I thought it was really cool because his son actually
his son
produced
was
it.
Yes, that was not Sean.
Yoko Ono?
His son was, oh yes, it is Sean.
Yeah.
Julian is the older son from his first wife. You're correct. So yeah, I think it was Sean Lennon, right?
I think so.
His son with Yoko that helped with that. And I think that's really awesome that they were able to resurrect that piece. Especially this many years after John Lennon's death and the end of the Beatles, because that was a devastating thing for a lot of people. when the Beatles broke up, because they had just had such a huge following. And then, they went on, they all had successful careers afterwards,
Mm-hmm.
but I don't know. It's I think they're one of the most powerful bands in history, just because of the impact that they had on music. They're changing music styles, because they went from this
Definitely.
kind of bubblegum pop type
Mm-hmm.
rock
To
to
like
some-
more of a
kind of psychedelic stuff.
Yeah.
for a
yeah,
while there.
yeah, and a lot of changes that they went through personally, religious wise, and
As they grew up as adults.
yeah,
Yeah.
and changed. And I the songwriting duo of Lennon and McCartney is phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And which is not to say that George Harrison and Ringo Starr weren't great as well.
Yeah.
George Harrison had a fine solo career, afterwards, and wrote some of
And
my
he's a pretty
favorite
great
songs.
singer.
Yeah, yeah. And so I just don't. Do you have a favorite Beatles song?
Oh gosh. I have a few actually, but my absolute favorite is Eleanor Rigby.
Yeah.
That is one of my
Yeah.
favorites. Also, it's like one of the saddest songs
Yeah.
ever. I think it's
That's,
really
That one
truly.
too.
Yeah, that's my absolute favorite. And yeah, I listened to the Beatles growing up a little bit, but I didn't really like it was interesting. I'd never heard the song Eleanor Rigby until college. Kristen and I
Oh, wow.
had the same English teacher,
Mm-hmm.
Comp 2 teacher. Well, we had her for Comp 1 and then Comp 2. And when we went to the poetry, we did a session on poetry. And what she did is she played Eleanor Rigby and then talked about the poetry nuances of the song.
Uh-huh.
And I was just like really moved like by that it became just like one of my most favorite songs.
Right.
I mean, I had heard Beatles songs before that. My parents were really into the Beatles. I had the Sgt. Pepper's soundtrack, and I'd seen other Beatles movies and everything like that. But yeah, definitely Eleanor Rigby is one of my top favorites.
That is one of my favorites as well. And it's kind of weird because, like I said, when I was growing up, we had this 8-track tape that my mom bought at the flea market or something, and it's just all these Beatles hits, and Eleanor Rigby was one of them that was on there. And I remember even being in like 3rd grade and hearing that song and thinking about how sad that was, to be so lonely and to die alone like that. And it was just a really profound song. And as a lot of Beatles songs are, if you go back and listen to particularly some of the later stuff. But yeah, I really love that one too. What about you, Kristen?
Well, funny thing, I do love Eleanor Rigby. But and I think that one was always my favorite until one day Here Comes the Sun. That song just popped in my head one day.
It's been in her
and
head
it's
for
been in
months
my head
now.
it's been
Longer?
like 3 years.
Oh, okay.
It's been in
It's
my
a
head
great
for
song.
3 years.
That
I
is a great
probably
song.
sing it at least 3 or 4 times a day.
Yeah.
It's all right. But
But it's a happy song.
Yeah, which
So-
is
so
weird
really
because you know
contrast.
me. Yeah, exactly. It's very contrasting, and you know me. I'm not like I don't like that song. Like I'm happy. Clap your hands if you think that. Blah blah blah. I don't really like that song, but I love "Here Comes the Sun." I don't know.
I like I say, Eleanor Rigby is one of my favorites. I do love Here Comes the Sun, but I think one of my favorites is actually a George Harrison song, and it is While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Oh, that's a good one too.
And I don't know why. I don't know why that song. It's just it's very poetic. I think is. I look at you all, see the love there that's sleeping, while my guitar gently weeps. I look at the floor, and I see it needs sweeping. Still, my guitar gently weeps. There's just something. I'm not sure what. It's just poetic. I think that's the best way I can say it. I do love that. And George Harrison is actually one of the Beatle that I probably least appreciated as a young person when I, as a youth. My sister loved John Lennon. I had a crush on Paul McCartney. Ringo Starr is just Ringo Starr, But George Harrison, I never really thought much about him until I was much, much older, and I came to appreciate what he had to offer and his songwriting that was so different from what Lennon and McCartney were doing. And I just love that song. It's totally one of my favorites.
I like In My Life and Michelle.
Oh, okay.
So, interesting fact, when CDs first came out and I finally got a CD player,
Mm-hmm.
I had like some birthday money. I think I got like $50 for my birthday or something, which was a lot, back in, I think it was 1997 when I bought my first CDs. And my grandmother took me to Ralph's Records in Lubbock, because we used to go to Ralph's Records to buy
used
records.
record store. Yeah.
Uh-huh. And he had just
Well, I think he
started
probably had new ones too. Yeah.
started carrying CDs. And I remember going in there and just picking through all the CDs and like, what am I going to get? And I was in 7th grade. So it was, a bud of different ideas and what my musical interests would become. It was just blossoming into refining my musical interests, which were very broad, and they stayed
Very
that way,
broad,
which is really
yes.
funny. They stayed very broad. I bought 4 CDs, and I got Queen, A Night at the Opera,
Mm-hmm.
Mariah Carey's album that had fantasy, I guess. I think that maybe that was the name of the album. I don't know. White Zombie.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep.
Why did you buy White Zombie? We had White Zombie.
Because I bought a different album. I'm
Oh,
not gonna buy
okay,
the same
okay.
one. Jeez.
Wow.
And then I got, my parents are a little extra weird and special. They had White Zombie, and why would you buy another album? We already have that one. No. And then the last
Just one
album
for yourself.
I'm just thinking Astro
fourth-
Creep, I'm
right.
like, okay.
The 4th album that I got was Rubber Soul by the Beatles.
Oh, I love that album.
Why I picked that one in particular, I don't know. Maybe that was the only album that he had, because he didn't have a whole lot. He had a small section. And
There may not have been a whole lot on CD at that point of the Beatles. So.
Right. And so I got that album, and I had that one forever, and I loved Michelle, my belle. I know the other words when I sing along, but I don't know them without the words, because
These are words that go together well.
Yeah. And then, I loved that album. I listened to that one like crazy. And then I think when I went to college, you guys bought me one.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And I listened to that one.
That one was
till
I had
it
that one
died,
also,
and then I
yeah.
had to get a second
The
copy
number one
of it.
hits, yeah. Yeah, I had, like I said, I grew up with a lot. I even wound up having some of the, so like when some of the early albums came out, they were released in England or, the UK. and then they would re-release an album in the US, and sometimes they were slightly different. And so some of the albums that I had, I wound up with UK versions, and some of them I wound up with American versions, and they were a little bit different from, sometimes they were the same, sometimes they were different, but we had a lot of those. And I don't know, there's so many songs that I was just looking at something on the internet right here, and I remembered the song Something, and I believe that's another, I may be wrong, but I think that's another George Harrison song. But there's so much to love about the Beatles that I watched a lot of the movies. My mother was so enamored with them because my mother was very young. And so we, if a movie came out, we watched the movie. So I saw Yellow Submarine and Help, and I don't even remember what all. And I just loved all that stuff. Oh, and there was a great movie. It didn't feature the Beatles, but it was kind of about the Beatles, and it was called I Want to Hold Your Hand, I believe.
I wanna hold your hand.
And it was about the Beatles' performance on the Ed Sullivan Show, and these kids trying to go see them. And it was a great movie, and my mom was really fascinated with that, so we watched that movie too. Did you have a favorite Beatle?
Ringo.
You're a Ringo fan.
I love
Okay.
Ringo.
Ringo is awesome. I love seeing him on Shining Time Station. So
Mm-hmm.
he actually turned out, he had a not as productive a musical career, but wound up being in the acting and voice talent and things like that. Like he had a long running stint with the Shining Time Station, Thomas the Tank
Yep.
show. He
Before
was
George Carlin. Before George Carlin.
and he was also in that Alice in Wonderland movie that we've talked about, the one that was made for TV. I don't remember what character he played, but he was one of the characters in that Alice in Wonderland movie that you loved. So
Oh, yes. And that's maybe, I don't know, like, he has a funny little goofy cute face. I don't know.
yeah,
And I love his
yeah, he's
little
very
goofy
different
voice.
He's very
He's
different
different
looking
from the
than
others,
the others.
yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Amber?
Oh gosh. Probably George Harrison.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I like John Lennon also.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like post Beatles career, probably George Harrison.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
What about and like post Beatles? That's where you love your Ringo Starr from, Kristen?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Probably,
Yeah.
yeah.
The things that he did after
Well,
the fact.
considering that John Lennon died,
Well-
before we were born, so
Well,
we
that's
really
true.
can't
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a little bit different, like,
perspective.
You do,
experience.
yeah.
I didn't, like, all of those songs were already come out, so I heard all of them at one time.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah,
that's
we-
true.
I
That's a
didn't
little bit
grow
different.
up
Yeah.
with
I didn't
it.
grow with them like Harry Potter, reading them as I aged.
Right.
They were just
Yeah.
there.
See, for
Like,
me, there was
I woke up
this chunk of early Beatles, or the Beatles
Mm-hmm.
from my early childhood, and then when I really found them, though, was right about the time probably that the Beatles broke up. So, but it was all the Beatles, and then they started their solo careers. So then I had Paul McCartney and Wings, and then
Yeah,
I
that-
had John and Yoko, and
that album Rubber Soul came out a year after you were born.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
So I literally, I feel like for the Beatles, I probably heard them in utero. I was born with them already, programmed.
They're in your DNA.
They are.
Yeah.
And
I mean,
that's the way with a lot of oldies music. I don't know if you can feel the same way, Amber. I know the lyrics to all of the oldies
Oh,
music.
sure. Yeah, my
that
dad
plays on
was
the
in a
radio.
classic rock band. You
Mhm.
know, that I came out listening to that stuff.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because my grandma used to drive around town and have it playing in the car.
Uh-huh.
And so I just, like, I already knew all the words to all the
Yeah,
songs.
because she loved the Beatles. She
Mm-hmm.
did. Yeah, because she was, you know, she was a teenager when they came out. Really, I mean, even though I was born, you know, in '64,
Mm-hmm.
she was a teenager when they hit the U.S.
Yeah.
You know, she was still a teenager then.
I do have to say, though, because I listened to all the hits. Like, I heard them on the radio.
Right.
And I listened to the 2 albums that I had, which one of them was the hits, the songs on the radio. So I'm looking at the album Abbey Road, whatever, and because I know some of the songs on there, because that's where the Here Comes the Sun is on, and I'm looking at half the songs on there, and I'm like, I don't know those songs.
See,
I
that's
haven't
probably my favorite
explored-
album.
I haven't explored like the B-sides or whatever,
Right,
the
right.
ones that didn't.
Have you? My favorite song actually from that album. I know you're. Here Comes the Sun. My favorite song from that album is called "You Never Give Me Your Money." You never give me your money. You never heard that song?
Maybe, I don't know. If I listen to it, I might. I'm looking at a lot of the names, and I'm like, Maxwell's Silver Hammer.
Oh yeah, bang bang, Maxwell's silver hammer.
My mom
goes
used to
down
sing that to me
upon his
all the
head.
time.
Yes, yes.
That was
Something.
probably one of my mom's
something
favorite
is
albums
on there. Come together
Right now,
Yep.
over me.
Yeah, I
That's
know that
probably one
song.
of my most favorite. Like probably my third favorite song by them. Yeah, like
Mean Mr. Mustard.
Yep. Yep. See, I know a lot of the, you know, but I don't know. I'm just a little bit.
But I say like the one album that I owned growing up was the Sgt. Pepper Lonely Hearts Club Band album. That was the one that I listened to constantly
They
growing
have a
up.
song called Her Majesty. What
And
did she think of that?
Oh, I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't get a chance to ask her.
But I had a big white cat named Jojo growing up, and he was named after the song Get Back.
Back, Jojo.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
One of my, going back to that album, you're talking about your favorite songs on that album. Another favorite song of mine on Abbey Road is Because. And that's a John Lennon song. And it's, I remember the lyrics, this little snippet of the lyrics, but it's because the world is round, I get high. And I don't know. It's just, it's a very interesting song. And I think there was a version of it that maybe it was Alice Cooper sang it. And it was very interesting. But yeah, it's kind of a cool little song. Very different.
So what is Magical Mystery Tour 1967?
Mm-hmm.
Is that... Oh, okay. I Am the Walrus, Hello, Goodbye,
Oh,
Strawberry Fields,
yep.
Penny Lane. Okay.
Yep.
Like those, I Am the Walrus is another one of my favorite songs by them.
Cuckoo Cuckoo.
Mm-hmm.
I am the walrus.
Yeah.
So that's when they were a little cray-cray. Their music was a little more wild. Maybe, I don't know.
One of my most favorite musicals is Across the Universe. So
Oh, that was a fun little way. You know, they took all the Beatles songs and
and
told
that kind
a
of
story through it.
renewed interest in the Beatles
Right,
after
right.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Another one of my favorite songs by them is Blackbird. That's a really good song
Oh,
too.
right. Yeah. So, what was that movie with the guy?
Oh. It was like...
He wakes up in a world where nobody
it
had heard
called
of the
Yesterday?
Beatles.
Yesterday. It was called
Yeah.
Yesterday.
I loved
yes.
that movie. That was so good. Yes.
And we didn't even mention that on our musical
I
episode, and that's a really
know.
good musical that I've seen. I
Yeah.
don't know,
So
lately.
this guy, I don't remember what happens. Does he get hit by a car or something? I don't know. But he wakes up and he's in this world where nobody had heard of the Beatles. And so he starts singing all these Beatles songs, and they think
He wrote them.
he wrote them. And there's some like cameo appearances from people like Ed Sheeran and stuff like that that are pretty amusing. Where he tells him to rewrite "Hey Jude."
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that was really fun. I loved that one. It kind of lets you look at those songs in a different way, I guess.
Yeah, it's a pretty good movie. Like probably one of my favorite Beatles homage movie, other than Across the Universe.
Mm-hmm. Like I said, I like the "I Want to Hold Your Hand." That one was a lot of fun for me.
Did you see the U.S. versus John Lennon?
No, I did not.
I did not.
I heard that was really good.
I have not.
Well, there's apparently a lot of Beatles movies.
Oh yeah.
Oh, for sure.
What?
I bet.
Yeah.
So what? Okay, so you talked about your favorite album. Was Rubber Soul your favorite album?
I mean, that's the thing is I don't have a
You don't have
favorite
enough-
album because
You haven't
all of
listened
the-
to enough of them.
all the songs that I guess you would say one is my favorite because I know every single one of those songs.
Right.
I'm looking at the albums that, you know, that I didn't own because I only owned those two, you know. Now I have Apple Music, so I can just go listen to whatever I want, you know.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
But
for
usually
sure.
when you say like, hey, you know, so and so play music on Apple Music by the Beatles, it'll generally play like the hits, so it's the
Right.
songs that I already know. I haven't explored albums like one at a time. I think it would be kind of cool though to go through and like start with the first one and like listen to them in order like
Oh,
a person
Yeah.
Oh, that would be
experience them,
interesting.
I don't.
like,
I've
in
never done that
order.
either.
Yeah, that would
Now,
be
that
fun
would be-
because
that
I'm
would
sure there's
be-
a ton of songs I don't know. Just like Elvis, you know, there's
Oh,
all
That would be
yeah,
not too hard to
Elvis, for
do
sure.
though with like Spotify, because if you looked up the artist on Spotify, it would have all the albums in the order.
Yeah, that's the way Apple Music
Yeah.
is set,
Yeah.
set the same way, and I
Yeah.
think you could do that on
You could
Amazon
just sit
too.
and do
if you
that.
have-
Yeah. That would be interesting, just to kind of listen to them again in order, and
or for the first time.
or for the first time,
Yeah.
as in your case. So did you say that
Well, I
Abbey
can't
Road
say
was
that
your
I've-
favorite album?
For sure. Well, gosh, I like a lot of the songs on Abbey Road. I guess that one I really love. I guess I'm just gonna have to say that Sergeant Pepper's is probably my favorite.
That one's one of my favorites. I
just
think, so.
because I remember my parents, because I loved the movie,
Mhm.
so they gave me the album. I remember that was my first Beatles CD.
Okay. Well, I had
So
when I had them, they
lots
were
of
actually
nostalgia.
on vinyl. Yes, that's how old I am. And yeah, I had a lot of those. Meet the Beatles.
So Abbey Road, that was like their last album with new music on it, then, wasn't it?
The style, because the Beatles changed styles so much from the beginning to the end. Probably Abbey Road's my favorite style of songs from the Beatles. Even if Eleanor Rigby's not on that album. I don't know. I didn't actually hear a lot of the Abbey Road songs until college.
Right.
And just so happened that when I was working at Dillard's, they played Abbey Road a lot. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, they played
kind of odd and interesting.
Yeah, they played Abbey Road a lot, so I listened to it a lot when I worked for Dillard's, working through college. And then, like I said, Sergeant Pepper's is what I grew up with, and then Across the Universe made me want to seek out other Beatles songs. Like,
Yeah,
I Am the
there were
Walrus.
definitely some songs on Across the Universe that I was not familiar with, and I thought I had heard a lot of Beatles stuff. I mean, I obviously, like I said, I'm not an expert on the Beatles by any means. Now,
Yeah, and I guarantee you I haven't listened to every single
No.
one of their songs.
but I know people who did. Totally, I know people who did. So I just I appreciated their music. I won't say that I knew a whole lot about them. I just listened to the music and enjoyed it. So now I know people who love the Beatles so much they've named their children after the Beatles.
Yeah, I know somebody who named their son Jude.
Yeah, I have a
Couple of people that have named their sons
Lennon.
Jude.
Yep.
All right. Well, we hope that you appreciate the Beatles as much as we do. And if you're into celebrating the Beatles, actually, it was yesterday, but you can still keep celebrating it today. Go ahead and go listen to some of that and refresh your memory about how great they really were. And if you have any favorite songs or your favorite Beatle, head over to our MMC chat. I've got a little poll going there, and you can answer the poll and get in on that conversation. Tell us your Beatles experience. I'd love to hear it. And don't forget to check out our blogs over on modernmusings.net. And we thank you for joining us. And we're going to be back with a goals refresh.
Yes.
Bonus.
Start thinking about your
bonus
goals. Yeah.
episode. So watch for that one to come out as well. And we'll be back next week. And until then, have a great week.
Bye.